break out of the pentatonic scale. That could also be the title of this program, because as soon as we try to do that, we discover a whole world of scales and arpeggios, and it seems pretty overwhelming. And in comparison to how effective the pentatonic scale is and how much we have to learn in order to master it, which is very little actually, we can come a long, long way with just a first position minor pentatonic shape or blues scale shape. But once we go out into that realm of minor, major scales, arpeggios, and all of that stuff, then suddenly we have to develop an acute sensitivity to the chords in the background and to what we're doing and what shapes we're using and what arpeggio scale, and a lot of theory comes with that. But so what do we do in order to take that next step? Instead of it being a huge step, how can we take the same elements, the same workings, or the same basic fundamentals of how the pentatonic scale works and turn them into a new tool that we can use that is equally simple, but then gives us a completely different sound? I used to wonder for a very long time, like, why did nobody ever look at the pentatonic scale and give me an answer to the question, why does it work so well? Because if I know that, then perhaps I can construct different scales or different similar fretboard patterns that can give me a new sound but will work equally well. But I couldn't find that anywhere. So in this program, we're going to talk a little bit about theory, because we need to understand why it works, so we can take that knowledge and apply it to something else that also works equally effective, but that has a completely different sound to it. Because you can use the pentatonic scale in all different kinds of styles of music and over different songs, but it has that pentatonic sound to it. Wouldn't you agree? It's always... right? You can't really play like a Spanish type flamenco type of song with that, because that sound that the scale has kind of interferes with the basic sound of flamenco, right? So that's one of the only styles actually where you cannot use the pentatonic scale without sounding like you don't know what you're doing. But so we need other tools, and if we can create those tools, then we can make it as easy as playing the pentatonic scale. So that is the focus of this program. But before I get ahead of myself here, let's just focus on what's to come, so we have kind of an overview. And this is a 4-week training system. That doesn't mean that you have to go through all 4 weeks in the pace of that's laid out. You can see it as 4 modules. You might spend 1 week on each, or you might spend 1 month on each module. But if you're going through this program as it launches the first time around, you will have no choice, because then you will have to go through the weeks, because they're launched as the weeks go by. But each week is a kind of a focus area. So I really recommend that you spend enough time there and resist the urge to move along. And so really make sure that you try out every concept, and it's not just, you just take it into your head, because if you just listen to it and not try out the concept and really get them under your fingers, then you will forget about them pretty soon, pretty quickly. So really make sure that you stop and you take in every video, and then you try out the concept so you have a real experience from it. Then secondly, I'm going to give you 6 easy arpeggio scales, and that's what we call these things. Actually, the pentatonic scale is close to being an arpeggio scale, but not quite, because arpeggio scales can have way more notes than the 5 notes of the pentatonic scale, but they will still work as well as, or even better than, the pentatonic scale. But I'm just going to give you these 6 because these are the most useful. Actually, the first one is extremely useful, and then they're prioritized as we go along, that you'll find arpeggio scales that are more specifically focused on a specific sound, like not the major, minor, pop, rock, jazz, but are more flamenco-like or more neoclassical metal, or stuff like that. But you are also able, after watching this course, to create your own arpeggio scales. And that's really the power of it, that you can define your own sound. You can say, hey, I want another sound when I play that's not going to sound like anybody else. So you will have the power to create sounds like that by using your own arpeggio scales. Then I have 20 arpeggio scale licks. Those are both licks and sequences in one. So it won't be like, okay, now I know 20 licks I can play within these shapes, and then that's what I do when I improvise. It's nothing like that. It's sequences slash licks, so we can investigate how do we actually use these arpeggio scales to their fullest. And because we don't have a specific amount of notes per string, like in the pentatonic shape, we got 2 notes per string, right? In a 3-note per string setting, when you're playing the major minor scale, then we have 3 notes per string. But in this case here, we're not going to do that. We're going to have 1 note on one string, then we're going to have 3 on the next perhaps, and then 2 on the next. So it's an uneven amount of notes, which really pushes us to be creative. Because instead of, which is cool, but instead of being able to go, right? Instead of being able to do that, then we have to play something new on each string, and we'll break out of that playing style that most of us adapt to, where we have like a specific notes per string, and then that influences our playing style as well. So this is really being creative. And I love these licks and sequences. They will really inspire you to create new lines and licks. And then the training jam tracks are very important, because there I try to create a jam track that fits the lesson. So you can really try out these concepts. You can also go out and find other jam tracks on YouTube and wherever that matches the basic features of the jam tracks I'm going to give you. And it's important, if nothing else, to after every module, to use these jam tracks to get the concepts into your fingers, into your brain, so you really discover what they mean, not as a thing you see, but as a thing you experience when you do it, when you play with these concepts. So, and of course we got tabs and charts with everything, so it should be easy to understand what goes on here. Of course, arpeggio scales is the main focus of this program, but we're also going to go into stuff like rhythm, because, you know, when you improvise, you pretty often get stuck in the same rhythms. You might have all kinds of tools, arpeggios and scales, but you play the same freaking, like, right? And we get stuck into that. And pretty often we don't even hear that that's what we do. So what is the magic formula to really breaking out of that? Every time you discover the fact that, hey, I'm boring myself silly, right? What do I do? How do I break up the rhythmical patterns that I use in a simple way that's effective? And also, how do I use my ear? That's something we're not going to talk about to the full extent, but we're at least going to focus on the essentials of, even though we have arpeggio scales that are super easy to use and that will always sound great over the tracks we're playing, we still have a certain need to be able to hear what we do, and to be able to get that connection between what you hear in here and what comes out there. So what are the core things that we can focus on to really develop in that area? With these tools and all the theory and all the things we're going to talk about, you are to become an improvisational master pretty quickly. And more importantly, you're going to be leaving the zone. The pentatonic scale is amazing, right? And the sound of it is crazy good, and we hear it everywhere. So all respect to that. But you're going to be able to take the step from the pentatonic realm to the major minor arpeggio realm, where everything is a completely different sound, and you're going to be able to do that easily and extremely effectively. It's going to sound like you have way more arpeggios under your command than you really have. So I hope you look forward to this little journey here. And so let's start out with the first lesson, which is about the gravitational center of any key. And the reason why we're going to focus on that is because it's essential to why we have arpeggio scales and how we build them. So look forward to the next lesson. Here it comes.